Welcome back to Politics Tonight, and I've been speaking with the senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, Akintola. Tonight, we're looking at the legal perspective to the judgments by the Kano State Petition Tribunal. All right, SAN, now let's move on with this conversation. And we will also look at one of the factors surrounding this judgment, and that's the virtual delivery of that judgment. What's your reaction to that, and why did it do that?
Pardon?
I want us to look at one of the factors surrounding that judgment, and that's virtual delivery of that judgment. What's your reaction to that? And why did you think that happened?
No, honestly, madam, I must say, I don't get your question.
I want us to look at the virtual delivery of that judgment. What's your reaction to that, and why did it do that?
Again, that is not strange. Even the rules of the court have been so amended. I, sitting down here, I conducted factual proceedings, even at the Supreme Court, and judgment has been given. What is important is that you are given the notice that your matter will be coming up on so day. So if you are given the notice and you don't key into the system, just too bad. If once you are served the process of a court, it is incumbent on you to respond to it. If you are asked, if you are commanded to appear before a court, of whether virtually or physically, you must appear. So there's nothing strange about giving the judgment virtually. In fact, during the COVID, the rules of our court were streamlined along that line to hear matters virtually and to deliver judgment virtually. So it has become part of our legal system now to hear matter virtually and deliver judgment virtually.
Impressive. All right. So, I mean, what's the implication of this for justice delivery in the country?
It enriches our jurisprudence. I mean, they become part of our judicial system now, and of course, there are two other layers, of course, that the case has to go. So it depends on how their lordship view the judgment. Like I did say, you and I have no power over it. It is within the process of the judges to decide cases before them. And of course, we can only come over to start analyzing it that we are doing after the judgment will have been given, not before. And like I did say, no judge should be threatened for doing this or her job. No judge should be, like the commissioner in Kano State did. I understand this is a 31-year-old man, probably too young to appreciate the danger inherent in his comment for it. Because those of us who speak Hausa language, who listen to his threats, shows that clearly a criminal offense has been committed, but he was given soft landing, a slap on the wrist, and it was just relief of his post without more. And I feel that something else should have been done. There should have been consequence for his comments that would teach others a lesson. Because the penal code is very clear on what he did.
All right, so let's come back to this. I know this is something you had mentioned earlier, but for emphasis' sake or better perspective, the APC candidates had earlier conceded defeat after announcement of that result. What lesson can people learn from this?
Again, I come back to the issue at the LR is that our people no longer read. They only sit behind computer or their handset, sticking their neck out to social media. That was done before in this country. Governor Fayemi, congratulated his rival when he lost the second term ticket to Fayoshe. And he still went to the tribunal after that. It's a constitutional right of the petitioner to so do. The mere fact that I say congratulations to you for slapping me does not stop me from reporting you to the police that you have assaulted me. Or that I looked the other way after slapping me, and I just went to my house to sleep. That shouldn't stop me. If I should decide to report you to the law enforcement agencies. So, that you have congratulated somebody doesn't deprive you of the right given to you by statutes and the Constitution.
But senior advocates, it is said that votes belong to political parties. But what happens in a situation when a candidate opted out of litigation and the party wants to pursue such?
It doesn't affect the party. The party too contested the election. In fact, in the past, it was said in Amechi's case that it was the party that contested the election and not the candidates. But these days, candidates now have been brought in. So, don't forget that our electoral act has gone through a series of surgical operations, some induced by judicial pronouncements, and some by the whims and caprices of some people. That's why we are all saying that we should go back to the waste report and adopt that. But that was an holistic approach to electoral issues in this country. But the powers that be have not deemed it necessary to adopt the waste report.
All right, but let's turn it the other way. What if it's a case where the party opts out and the candidate wants to pursue such? What happens in that situation?
It happened in Muhammadu Buhari's case. NPP pull out of the petition, and Muhammadu Buhari was still given the right to proceed.
Right. So the tribunal declared. Okay. Please go on.
I mean, the political party and the candidates have their interests tied together, joint and several. In other words, either of them could maintain petitions.
All right. So, I mean, the tribunal declared APC candidates.
In Kano that he was not part of the case. The mere fact that he kept quiet doesn't mean that he was not party to it. And the mere fact that he congratulated the winner doesn't mean that he had no right to enforce.
All right.
On a very firm ground, if he so decide, he can still enforce his rights.
Right. So
it isn't even a constitutional right, which no one can take away from him.
All right. So the tribunal declared APC candidate Nasir Gawuna as the winner, but it's still a long way in this race. How will you advise both parties to conduct themselves, SAN?
Well, the parties have their lawyers, and their lawyers are the masters of the game. They know what to do in the circumstances. And the party that lost knows that it's time to do the needful. Start counting since yesterday. See, it's now included the day of the judgment. They know what to do, and it is time bad.
Right.
They are the masters of the game, so they know what to do in the circumstances.
Right, but as we speak, Governor Yusuf has instructed his legal team to appeal these judgments, saying it was marred by human imperfections and.
It is his constitutional right to still do.
I guess. Okay.
He has two other layers to play with, so.
Right. So, SAN, I was saying the governor has instructed his legal team to appeal this judgment, saying it was marred by human imperfections and misapplication of the law. So how will you react to this?
Well, I must commend the governor whose election was declared invalid. I read his statement. It was very, very civil, very, very commendable. It was a statement that speak about peace without necessarily hitting up the politics in Kano State. And we have to commend him. He's a statesman. We have to commend him. Unlike his commissioner, who was being facilious and perhaps because of youthful experience, because I understand he's a 31-year-old man.
Well, is it good to say?
His constitutional right.
Do you think, is it good to say that there was a misapplication of law?
That is his own opinion. He's not the judge. He should wait. When he gets to the Court of Appeal, their lordships who are trained in that aspect of our profession, they know what to do. They know what to do. So we should allow the judges to do their job for crying out loud. Like I did say, our judiciary is being too media-driven. And I wish the governor will file his appeal timelessly so that people will stop commenting on this, throwing up all sorts of insinuations, half-truths, and what have you. Because when the appeal is filed and served, everybody should keep quiet and allow the law to take its course until final determination of the case.
Right. Esian, with all of these recent tribunal judgments, many have said INEC deserves some knocks. Do you agree? And if you do, where did you think INEC erred?
Well, INEC is being manned by human beings, and there are rooms for mistakes. And that was why the Electoral Act talk about substantial compliance. Not that everything will be complied with. And if there are mistakes here and there, because this is the first time I'm reading that there were still ballot papers that were unstamped, unsigned, and authenticated. There are 36 states in this country, and there are election petitions in virtually all the states of the Federation, except those states where elections were not conducted. So, if we have just one isolated case of such, I think we should give INEC its due. Give INEC its due.
Right. I'm asking these questions because we have elections coming up in November. Where do you think INEC needs to tighten its belts?
We teach INEC a lesson. They will be better prepared for those elections coming up in November. They will ensure that all the ballot papers complied with the provision of the Deduct Act. That will bear the stamp and the authentication of INEC. And you see, regardless of, no one should rely on the provision of Section 63, Subsection 2, that says where the presiding officer or the Deduct can still say, okay, I allow it to go. Because the tribunal is waiting for him or her. The tribunal has supervisory role over his discretion. And the tribunal has a duty to perform. Unlike his own, he has a discretion. For the often time, we are saying it. A discretion is not a law. It's not sine qua non. It's not something that is cast in iron or a rocket science. No. It's a discretion. You can do it. Maybe you have to do it. But when you have a mandatory section of the law that says you shall do this, you don't have a discretion. But to do it.
Right. So, Esian, still, in the last few days, I've spoken with few persons who have been very insistent on the fact that our Electoral Act still needs to be reviewed. Is this a fact?
Well, there are rooms for improvement. There are rooms for improvement. My only advice to the National Assembly is that if we have another opportunity to tinker with the Electoral Act, they should call in the practitioners to guide them. You see, law is a science. It is not something you do on emotion, and you don't make a law targeted at a certain class of people, like the National Assembly tried last time and shot itself in the foot. Practically excluding itself from the list of the, because they had the governors in mind and they felt they would deal with the governors. But in the process, they dealt with themselves. So a law is said to be a law when it is certain, when it is universal, when it is non-discriminatory. But when you are making a law or do an amendment that discriminates against one section of the country, it will fail. So when next you want to tinker with the Electoral Act, they should call in those who are knowledgeable in that areas of laws. It's not every lawyer that can speak or address the issues of the Electoral Act. I'm very sorry to say this. With due respect. Yeah.
All right. So before we move on to other issues, SAN, our elections continue to be determined by court. What's the implication of this for the country's democracy? Why should courts have the final say?
I beg your pardon?
Right. So in the last few years, our democracy, or rather our elections, continue to be determined by court. What's the implication of this for the country's democracy? And why should courts have the final say?
You see, we are still growing. And that was why I stated earlier on that we should allow the judiciary to do its job. The judiciary should not be intimidated or blackmailed the way we are doing. You see, judiciary determining the fate of election petition is not peculiar to Nigeria. That is the situation in all civilized countries, including the United States. The difference between those claims and ours is that we have not done enough thinking on our electoral system. The last time we did was through Uwe's panel. We did a very good job. But the power that be threw away the most important aspect of that report, threw it into the dustbin. See, for me, speaking personally, I don't see the reason why an objection that is so fundamental that has been raised against a particular petition should be allowed to waste the resources of the, should be allowed to be in the cooler for some time to say, look, let's finish the substantive matter before deciding the case. If an objection is so fundamental that will determine the fate of the petition, especially if it is based on pleadings, you can't put something on nothing. Like I did say, I've seen petitions that ordinarily should not last more than 2 days. On the day of their mention, that was the way we were trained. Cases are won and lost on the basis of your pleadings. If your pleading is so frivolous that cannot even sustain your relief, why keep it such in the docket? Some petition ought to have been thrown out because so many other cases are waiting to be attended to. But as we are now, Nigeria is so overwhelmed. So many other cases are lying fallow in various courts of the land that has not been heard because judges are all over the country doing election petitions. So that's my grounds. These are the things we should take into consideration. We should factor that in when we are making another amendment. Certainly, it's a work in progress. It's not something that you can put in the stranger to know we are completed the exercise. No, we still need to think of the Electoral Act.
Right. All right. So before I let you go, let's move away from the court and the law. Let's talk about the economy. How will you describe the way the approach of President Tinubu to reviving the economy? Esian, did you get my question? How will you describe the approach of President Tinubu to reviving the economy?
Well, so far so good. give it to him. This is a man who knew his honors. He had his just well cut out for him from the word go. Of course, what he meant on ground was terrible. But for him, telling us not to pity him, I would have said he should be pitied. You see, because look at the state of our economy. Look at what he meant on ground. Look at the state of our indebtedness to various organizations and countries, including China. See what we are owing. Don't forget that was to the credit of our Obasanjo that he cleared the Paris debt and did so many other things to stabilize the economy. But over the years, we have piled up so much debt, and all of us have been living beyond our means, including you and I. That's the bitter truth, but we won't want to accept that. A man on 50,000 naira that earns 50,000 naira and want to ride a car, how will we be able to manage such? When I joined the legacy as a youth, I started with B2. In fact, many people of our generation started with B2 on hire purchase. We live in face me, I face you, room which people call face me, I slap you now. So we've been living beyond our means. People who should ordinarily not be riding one car will be riding two. And I tell you, if you want to hear the truth, our fuel, PMS, is the cheapest across the globe, or one of the cheapest, truth to say. Because I know that as we speak in the US, even in Texas that produces oil, that are not producing it, a liter of petrol is $1.5. Translate that into naira. I mean, sorry, $2.4. Translate that into naira. And the UK is 1.5 to 1.4, depending on the areas where you are buying where you are filling up your tank. It's because everything has been deregulated there. But in our own case, we just decided over the years to be enriching some few elements.
Thank you so much, SAN.
Who are not.
Thank you very much. We're out of time. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, SAN Akintola. Thank you so much for helping us with some legal perspectives on the program tonight. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And once again, the media should let off the hook on the neck of the judiciary. Let the judiciary also work. You have been encouraging those elements in our society that are not doing anything good to the system.
SAN, is it the media or the politicians?
Them on the television. You see, the media should stop encouraging such people. They should be ignored.
SAN, is it the media or the politicians? You're blaming the media. Is it the media or the politicians?
Of course, because the media has been encouraging that. I'm not saying that it is the media. As a matter of fact, the media has been doing a very good job because without the media, we wouldn't be having this democracy. I was on the street.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
I was a member of NADECO. But what I'm saying is that when we see people doing something that is against the interest of the country, we should not encourage them.
We're doing our best. Thank you, SAN.
Once again, thank you for having me.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here.